Thank you to GameWork Create for being a channel partner. Looking for a Kickstarter game you missed or 3D printed minis? GameWork Create has a huge selection available, all at a fair price. Use the link in the description below to check out all that GameWork Create has to offer. What's up, Rockstars, and welcome to another news video. This one's really important. I'm going to cover some big games. Some of these have almost 8,000 followers before the campaign even launches, and it's launching today. So I'm going to tell you about that one. I'm going to tell you about a few others that are out now. Tell you about some that are even struggling to fund or aren't doing as well. I'll be talking about some upcoming stuff. I'm also going to be talking about some important stuff like ethics and advertising. So if you want in on all that, this is the video for you. Let's go and get right to it. Now, as always, a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their financial support that this level of independent content can get to you guys as often as it does. That's because this is an expensive board game hobby, and I don't take any money from any game developers, so that you don't have to worry that I'm giving you my wallet's opinion. Instead, you're only getting my own honest opinion. If you appreciate that level of independence, there is a link down below. Plus, there's an audio update I do every single week. There's play sessions. I just played Chronicles of Drunagar with some people. I'm going to be playing Conan later with a few more. We're going to have a lot of fun there. There's a hop-in Discord. All that kind of stuff is there as well if you're interested. If not, though, that's fine too. A like on the video saying like this video, or even just saying, hey, this video was nice, or commenting on anything I said helps me know that I'm making videos for you guys and that you guys are actually benefiting from it. And really, that's what it's all about. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into this. Starting out with Arydia. Arydia is a Final Fantasy character. I know that. I don't know the Arydia, but maybe somebody has green hair in there. I don't know. The Paths We Dare Tread. This is from Far Off Games. This is from the same people who brought us Xia? Is it XIA? A very popular kind of sandboxy sci-fi game. This is a let's just see what they say. The open world campaign-based cooperative fantasy role-playing board game for 1 to 4 players. All miniatures come pre-painted. They do more than just pre-painted though. I'm going to show you guys this. I'm going to show you a little bit. See, they have a video out here now that I'm going to start playing a little bit, but mainly because you can kind of see the gist of a lot of everything. I'm not going to play this whole video. What I do want to show you, they got like overlays and stuff like that, is we're going to skip this and go straight to this right here. Look at this. Wait, he's got no head. Oh, bam. Oh, bam. Oh, whoa, what is that? He's got no eyes, but that's fine. Eyes are hard. This is pretty cool. I like that. I kind of dig that. Take that, KDM. We can customize too. It looks like very, like, if you want an RPG, this is it. And it looks like it's got high level stuff. It's got very, nitty gritty combat kind of stuff too, as well. Different kind of methods of doing stuff. Really cool art. I actually really like the art. It's got a lot of wood pieces. I can deal with wood. It's got to die, so I'm good with that too. And wolves. I love wolves. Seriously though, it looks like there's a lot of interesting mechanics here. You can see where they're putting those gems there. Love that. A lot of cool stuff going out there. This launches today. I don't know the exact time because it's hard to kind of calculate the time. Sometimes they do have a timer, but if it's not out now, I'm going to send you to this link, and it's either out now at the time of this video. Probably normally they're out by the time I post this. If not, it will be very soon. So go in and click on that. Click the notify me on launch. And I'm interested to see what it's all about, and I'm sure you are too if you're anything like me when it comes to fantasy stuff. Minis are, but you know what? I can deal with that. That's okay. If the gameplay is good. The gameplay has got to be really good. Moving on, we got Dragonbond, Lords of Vaala. I've been showing this off for quite a while now. Well, it's actually out, and it's doing quite good. It's got $60,000 already. And what's impressive about that is because this freaking thing, you can get it for $15. You got a 3D printer? You got a Kinko's? You're good to go. You can print this game out. And your STL minis will look better than the ones they give you, I guarantee it. Which is, I guess if you print them on an FDM, maybe not. But seriously, they want you to play this game, and I think that's super awesome. $15 or $50, you actually get the game. That just blows my mind because of what's involved here. Like, they got some decent looking minis, especially sculpt-wise. I'm quite impressed by that. Not a huge amount, but the design of the sculpts look quite cool. I really dig that. It looks kind of like a Rising Sun-ish style, area control dudes on a map kind of themed game. Looks like you can get some monsters and interact with those and all that, but there's a ton of stuff here. Now, I will say when you're looking at this, These people traditionally do a lot of 3D printing stuff too, and so the renders pretty much are assuming 3D printers. So you'll see skinny stuff like this. There's no way you can get that in like a finished model. It'll break or bend or whatever. That's a 3D print junk there, right? Which 3D print, totally possible. But you see how skinny that is? You see that skinniness? That'll be thickened up. So just as you're looking at these minis, just realize that is the case a lot of times. I really do dig that art. This is looking cool though. I really dig this. I'm going to look into it further. I'll report back to you guys, of course. I definitely need to dig deeper into this to see exactly, because I mean, you can, again, it starts at 50. I'm at 320 right here, so it can get high. A lot of that's for like a lot of minis, and they got a ton of minis, a ton, because they just keep adding to it from like every Kickstarter they do. They just, I mean, so you get all of this, 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 you get like it's just insane. You get this big guy now, and then these guys here, and there's a lot, and they're quite unique too. Like there's a lot of unique ones here. I was looking at let's scroll down. There's like this big person. It's really funny. This thing's freaking crazy. Dig that one. Yeah, like there's this chick here with, I don't even know what kind of weapon that is. Sure, why not? And this little guy here, look at him. He's kind of cute. I like him. Anyway, very interesting stuff. As you can see, definitely gets unique and a little weird, and I dig it. It's definitely stands out. There's some cool models here for sure, and it looks like a lot of it is used in a kind of cool game that ain't that much. So definitely looking into that. Next up, we have Divinus. Trying to think of other ways to say it. Divinus is how I'm going to go with it. They're at 242. Honestly, I expected a little bit more, but it's an app-based game, so I didn't look into it too much. And honestly, by the way, I know I say a lot about apps, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. Because I agree with Tom Vassell. Tom Vassell's a genius because he agrees with me. I don't know how he feels about that, but no, I really just like to focus on board games where I can just kind of focus on the game and my friends and not worry about looking at TV or anything like that. I understand that's for a lot of people, and I'm totally fine with that. I don't care. It's just not for me. They can make stuff that's not for me. It's allowed. I have plenty of other games, and I have too many games that I'm interested in with not enough money to back them all, so it's fine if I can skip one, because that's an app. That's an easy skip. I like it. I need more easy skips in my life. Price, $70. Okay. It's certainly not 140. It's not double the price like some games. So there is that. And they're unlocking a whole bunch of stuff. There's a few phone stuff, but for the most part, you're getting minis, you're getting cards. It's kind of normal stuff. So, yeah, I dig the art as well. I think that looks cool too. But I have not looked more into the game than just super superficial. And that is simply because it's not something I'm going to back. And I knew at the moment it said it requires an app. Now, if you make a game app optional, I'm all about apps. Apps can read me story. That's sweet. Apps can conveniently save stuff for me. That's pretty cool. They can remember stuff. That's fine too. I love it. Give me some paper to do that on my own, should I choose to take it up to the cabin or something like that. Moving on, we got Black Rose Wars Rebirth. This I'm kind of bummed about. I liked Black Rose Wars, but I felt that it was a good game marred with it's just overstuffed. There's too much mechanics that aren't adding enough value for their worth, in my opinion. So there's too many layers of stuff. It's not streamlined enough. I feel like when you're developing a game and you're on like the last little bit and you've developed all these really cool mechanics, and then you kind of have to take a step back and figure out which ones need to go. And I guarantee that's a hard thing. I get it. It's hard to do that. And maybe that it goes into a different game. Maybe it's just not for this game. But I feel like Ludus Magnus Studio with Black Rose Wars definitely just didn't get to that step where they cut anything out. If they cut stuff out, I can't imagine how overstuffed it was before, because I feel like at its core, it's this great little card game with some cool miniatures and room manipulation and stuff like that. And I dig that, but it doesn't focus on that. It focuses on that plus 20 other different mechanics that you're busy interacting. And I feel like that's too much. I would love a streamlined version of this. I was hoping Rebirth would do that. However, it looks like it's pretty much more of the same. I'm not seeing any real changes, just more content. And we got Wave 2, and it's tons of content. I have more Black Rose Wars than I will play. I promise you that. So I have no desire for more of it unless they actually kind of streamlined it a bit. And by stream, I mean like cut things out, like get rid of some stuff. I like half the amount of mechanics, and I would play that game all the time because it's a very fun game somewhere deep down in there. My opinion. Other people can have different. For me, that kind of overstuffedness is I'm averse to. I tend to like things as streamlined as possible if I can help it. Moving on, we have Esopya. I showed this before. Again, I think it looks great. It looks kind of like a Magic the Gathering sort of game with some movement. There's some other games kind of similar, but this one has a really cool art style, which I dig. And it looks very streamlined, very simple, right? It looks like there's basically just these simple mechanics that you're moving around with, and then the cards kind of manipulate that, and the details in the cards. And I really like that when you have an established system, and then you just change things a little bit here and there. This one does AoE, and this one does this, and I really appreciate that. And it looks pretty minimalistic. You got some cards, you got a board, you got some tokens. I'm down. It should be pretty cheap, I'm assuming. I am very much actually interested in this, so definitely in on that. Next up, we're going to talk about Earth Under Siege Flashpoint. I've shown this, I think, only once before. I wanted to show a few more things because I read that they're going to have some like stealth mechanics, which sound pretty cool. So I went looking. I'm like, oh my gosh, this art looks great, right? The minis look interesting. I dig that. Like the very good kind of poses that are different. The art style looks nice. I love splashes of color. I have ever since Claustrophobia 1643. I fell in love with those art tiles, and I want that in like every game now. Like give me a dark kind of thing and then splash some freaking neon bright blue purple on there. Yes, please give me more. That looks cool. And again, like they all look cool. Like he's pointing to just like the other guy, but he's so different in his pose and style that I'm not even like upset about that. Or we got some like Helghast, Wolfenstein, Robo Nazi things going on here. We got this guy, he's from Doom by the looks of it. Like it looks kind of interesting. We got these guys, they're from Crisis. That's fine too. Give me all of them. We got this lady, she's, I don't know, some tech sci-fi chick. They're always like that. But I dig it. It's cool. Like I'm down with all of this. Like this looks sweet. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. Definitely interested to see more. They've been teasing a little bit. How do they define it? Yeah, I want to follow the link. How do they define it? 1 to 4 player co-op sci-fi dungeon crawler where players complete covert missions against an invading alien force. I need a sci-fi dungeon crawler. Sarcadia Quest was not it. Reichbusters was not it. I need something that is it. Give me something that's it. So my hopes now lie in you, Dark Horizon Games. Give me a cool sci-fi dungeon crawler, please. It'll stand out. Next up, we have Masters of the Universe from CMON. This is coming out soon. They have 5 designer diaries. The only thing I want to point out here is that the power system at its core is a 1 versus many. Say no more, I'm interested. 1 versus many is kind of dying out, and you'll see here they're also saying, oh, but it can be complete co-op. We like to think that board games and Kickstarters are like just these passion projects, but CMON and all these other companies, all of them look at, and this is why I'm interested when we do like a payment plan for something like Chronicles of Drunagar, because people are looking, right? And if you do the queries and you look at what the top grossing board games are, they're going to be co-op. They're not 1 versus many. Those traditionally don't do super well. Where you actually have some duds, right? Like Rise of Moloch was not a good sell for CMON. Guess what? 1 versus many. That's just how it works. The moment you have to do that, it seems to be an unpopular thing for me. I love Conan. I love Descent 2nd Edition, which again, guess what? Full co-op now. Notice that's a trend. They're moving away from that because that's not where the money is. It's not just that they wanted to make one. It's they want to sell a game and make money, and they're going to do that with the co-op. With fantasy, where minis are around the same scale and style as Dungeons and Dragons, so they get all the, like, tick all the check boxes with the, groups that the market groups that they check or whatever junk. I don't know what they do. Anyway, interested. If I can play it as 1 versus many, I am interested. There's not a lot I need out of that besides that. And interesting system and stuff like that, of course, but definitely perked my interest more than before. That being said, there is a European version as well from Archon Studio. I actually will be showing this off soon-ish. When I can. Their box art, by the way, very daring to go forth like a realistic kind of look through all the characters. Notice they do have his traditional design with like his kind of chess piece symbol there and stuff like that, which I thought was cool. We've seen this before. There's not really anything else new I can show you. They do have the Castle Grayskull dice tower thing, which sounds cool, and it's very much more of a kind of an overtop map kind of game versus in anything of what they're very different from each other from the looks of it. So that's kind of interesting as well. All right, let's go ahead and look at Tom here. Tom, you're a genius. I know. Love you too, man. He said something great. Let's hear this. This is his review of Descent Legends of the Dark Review. I'll link to it down below. I don't care. You guys go watch it. I'm not going to review it. And he says this. All right, here we go. Here we go.
But this really is kind of a video game.
This really is kind of a video game. What? Well, here I am. Look at that. I called it. Now, when I said it, I got like 105 dislikes. He says it, he gets 25 dislikes. I don't think that's very fair. But, you know, whatever. I called it too soon. You killed the messenger. I get it. I get it. You killed the messenger. I said it first and you're like, no, it's going to be great. And you disliked me, but called it. You know, it's interesting. Rob from Rob's Tabletop War, he was talking about this, and he said you could play the whole game by just drawing on the map. Like, you don't even need the terrain at all. It is completely useless in there. It's just for visuals. There's not really any mechanics to it too much. They can like jump down from it and stuff like that, but and that's what Tom said too. But that's the only thing he could get from that. It's like, why do we have all of this stuff? We have to set it up and store it, and they don't give you any storage option like at all. It's just thrown at the bottom of his box. It's ridiculous. I was looking at this and it's bad. It's bad. Hold on. I'll look at this. Oh, God, why are you holding that up? Don't hold it up. Look at that. There you go. There's your, and they're falling apart. He's got to glue them together, so it'll take even more time. And it all just is a visual thing. Now, I am all about production value and immersion and all that kind of stuff. And I love terrain. I am a terrain whore when it comes to that. I love it. And I can't help but use it. Even though it's inconvenient and gets in the way of my line of sight, I can't see my minis around it and all this kind of stuff. And it takes longer to set up. I dig it. So I get it. But I think we need to figure out how not to do it like this, right? I was recently playing Street Fighter. Right there. It's also got the exact same style of terrain and at the exact same time. It falls apart. There's nowhere to store it. At least here they gave you a gigantic box to throw it in. We need to figure out what we're doing here. But there's got to be some better storage, and there's got to be a way to make it to where you don't have to spend. I think he said he spent an hour and a half putting it together, and even so, he has to glue it, so it'll take even longer. That's a long setup time. So we need to figure some stuff out there. I'm not as against it as I think he is. But I do want it used to, like, it needs to have a purpose besides just visual. If it's just visual, it needs to be a separate purchase. Like, that's pimping out the ride, right? Like, you get the ride, and then if you want to pimp it out, pimp it out. That's what Kickstarter's all about, is pimping out stuff, right? But I mean, like, add all the bling, add all the bedazzle. I'm all about it. You want those in resin? Sure. You want that signed by God on the bottom? That'll be the next tier up. Like, that's fine. I'm down with that. But we need to figure out how not to do this for sure. And I called it. Anyway, speaking of calling it out, you might recall I talked about how when you buy a board game from a marketing team, that you tend to be marketed in the kind of like gross marketing. Like here, they'll put visualization only, right? But at the same time, they're saying you're going to get minis, and here's our choice of how to show you what you'll get. Now, it just says visualization only. This could be a picture of Mickey Mouse, I guess, and they wouldn't care, right? Again, it's a marketing company that's making a board game here. So they're going to market that marketing crap that most people I don't think like. So that's how they advertised it. I'm going to zoom in on this guy. Look at this guy. Now, I called it ahead of time. I was like, there's no way that mini's going to look like, look at that mini. Look at that. You think that's going to come out like that? It looks like a crunchy Cheeto. That's garbage. So this is kind of like those expectations versus reality. This is what happens when you are marketed to, and this is what happens when that marketing team doesn't care afterwards. What is that? My son has army men that I bought 100 of for $5 made in China back in 1992 that have more detail than that. That is hot garbage. That would look better if I melted it down and sculpted something myself. That is the ugliest thing I have ever seen, and they should be ashamed. I would rather have a Sandy. I almost said meeple, but I wouldn't like a meeple. I would rather have why do a miniature if it's going to be like this? Now, this is kind of a crappy photo. I'm sure it looks a little bit better, right? A patron linked me to another one that kind of showed more. It's really bad and rounded, and there's no definite detail, and it's bad. It's bad. This is Orange Nebula is now the top of the list when it comes to what they show you isn't what you get. The top of the list. I used to talk about how there's a slight variance, right? Sometimes it's down to like a 6% variance between render and what you actually get, right? But this is at a whole new level. That is just terrible. Anything they show you, you can't trust them. If this is the trust that you get, don't trust them. Don't expect anything. Don't expect this. Don't expect this. Don't expect this. In fact, you can't. The dice are rounded too. They couldn't even get the sharp corners on the freaking dice. They're rounded. That's terrible. That's terrible. And I guarantee they could show you something closer to what you'd actually get, but they choose not to. They choose to show you something way better and then put visualization only. In a light gray. Notice this. Look. Big old red. Big bold. Look at this. Red. Bold. Light gray. Visualization only. Light gray on white. Hopefully you don't notice. Hopefully you just look at the pretty picture. And then assume that. And then you click back. Ooh, yeah, $90. What does $90 get me? $90 gets you that piece of crap. That's what $90 gets you. Good luck with your piece of crap. You deserve better. You deserve better. If nothing else, they should sell you the Crunchy Cheeto. Like, show the Crunchy Cheeto. You get 3 Crunchy Cheetos that you found under your sofa seat from 3 years ago. It's kind of bendy even. There you go. There's your mini. That's terrible. Terrible. And they definitely take the cake when it comes to pretty much blatant false advertising. Oh, wait, no, they put a little footnote, so it's not false advertising. Moving on. Limbo Eternal War. Let's go to some good games here. I'm at $1 right now. We'll see what they all add here and what they're doing. Now, they have 97. They need 147. It's several days in. It looks like it's probably going to fun. It's been going up as far as I can tell. But they definitely had some missteps. Number one, they weren't really selling the game as a game. They weren't explaining it to new people, right? They had a lot of mistakes. And sadly, it's mistakes they had in 1.0. In 1.0, they didn't have any gameplay again. And so people were like, we need a gameplay video. So the actual designer of the game, like, recorded it on Tabletop Simulator. And it was dinky. It was days later, but they did it. And then they funded. Back when Hate was first there, again, they advertised with the minis from CMON even. And they were struggling to fund really well. And again, they eventually made a gameplay video days later. Limbo now, again, struggling to fund. And again, had to add a gameplay video days later. Are you noticing a trend here? If you're selling a game, sell a game. If you're selling minis, selling minis. I don't care which one you do, but pick one. If you have a game with the most amazing minis I've ever had in a game, they are amazing. Trust me, if you got this just for the minis, you'd still be happy. It happens to have a fantastic game, I feel, attached to it. But anyway, there were some missteps for sure. They've gotten better, but I mean, again, everybody working on this is part-time. Nobody's full-time on this. It's a super indie, right? They have a how to play here, but it's just text. There's some struggles, but it is a really good game that I love greatly. I have enjoyed every single play session I've had with it. Has one of the best army building to it. It has fantastic units that interact with each other. A lot of great things here and some amazing miniatures. Great bang for your buck. You get so much good quality stuff out of this that I was very happy. I liked the art style. Some of the tokens were cheap and stuff like that, but I mean, the boards I get from CMON at this point are pretty cheap too, so it's whatever. But seriously, really, really, really good stuff here. So if you are willing to deal with that little bit of, and they added the 75mm minis, those resin ones, like the ones I showed you in the previous video on this, so you can take a look at that. Anyway, if you're willing to deal with the indiness and know that there is some indiness, then You can actually, I will up it. I probably want to get Betrogard. I'll probably get Alicia. Oh my gosh, no, they added some new ones. Look, they added Nervia. Oh, okay, I wouldn't be adding a few. Oh, crap. Okay, I might struggle here. 45 a pop. Ooh, but they are good. Anyway, yeah, so go in and check it out. But again, realize what you're getting into. Nobody works full-time on this. They delivered the last one. It is a fun game. They had some issues in delivery. Hopefully they fix it on this one, but the campaign didn't vote a whole bunch of competence, so, you know, it's a bummer. It really is. I was hoping they have a great, if they could just nail it, it would do great, but is what it is. All right, let's talk about Legend Academy here. This is coming out in 8 hours, so guess what? This is going to be live too, but I left this to the end because I'm actually not really talking too much about Legend Academy. I've talked about it several times now. I think it looks like a kind of neat game, so I dig that. I wanted to talk about ethics. So let's discuss ethics here. I thought about doing a whole video on this, but I didn't want it to seem like I'm harping on stuff. You guys know how I roll. But I do want to point something out so you're aware of stuff like this, because even if it's not purposeful, it can still happen. You still need to be aware of how these companies advertise these to you, right? You know, I was showing you like this crap here, right? Where they're purposely putting visualization on because they know fully well they're not going to deliver anything that looks like this. They knew they weren't going to. They knew they were going to deliver this. They know they're not going to put a lot of money into it. They know that no company's going to deliver that to you. That's not a thing, right? And they knew that going into it, but they wanted a pretty picture so you'd be more inclined to back it. So, all right, so we have Legend Academy here, and we have a quote from Board Game Co. and Jeremy Howard. Now, we actually had, gosh, see, I zoomed in, it zooms into everything. This is what was originally there. Now, the reason I point that out is because this is playthrough and reviews. It has a quote from Quackalope, has a quote from Board Game Co. and has a quote from Jeremy Howard from Man vs. Meeple, where Quackalope says, "I've played a lot of games. Legend Academy is special." Now, first of all, that's so crazily out of context. He is the designer of the game. You don't buy Blood Rage with a quote from Eric Lang saying, "This game's amazing," and it not tell you, oh, by the way, also he made the darn game. Like, you don't get that, obviously, right? Like, I've never bought any of these games with the designer saying how great the game, that's not how you sell it. Now, I told them about this, and they removed it. And so, props to Eldorado Game for doing that. But, what if I hadn't? What if I didn't tell them that, hey, you probably shouldn't advertise the game with a quote without context and without declaring and disclaiming, hey, this is the designer talking about his own game. Like, that's obviously really important. Another thing that they did is they had the developer, notice Daniel Aronson, Nick Thompson's, Justin Spice, Aaron Williams, and all these guys here, their names. Notice Board Game Co. and Quackalope are not their name. It's not Jesse, right? Now, again, they fixed that because I told them to fix that too. So now they got rid of Board Game Co. completely. It was like some kind of joke thing, I guess. I have charisma, but whatever. The reason they used Quackalope, the reason they used Board Game Co. is because of name branding. For instance, nobody cares about Michael King, but people do care about King of Average. If you put, hey, this game was developed by King of Average, you guys might actually care. If you guys are like, hey, this is developed by Michael King, you're like, who? Right? I mean, some of you might know, but do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's name brand recognition. So, and that's why it's still there. And I understand that. I'm not against putting Quackalope there, but he should have his name there too. When I looked at it, it just felt so icky that all I saw was them they would never use his name anywhere. It was always just Quackalope. It was always just Board Game Co. And then it was like, oh, hey, and by the way, the designer and his two friends like the game. Well, really? Like, how helpful is that to us? And so, and even still, like, Alex, has reviewed the game, but doesn't mention that it's designed by him, who's a frequent channel partner. And I spoke with him about it, and he said, it's low priority. I don't really care to disclaim that. You know, it doesn't matter. And he can make that decision. I just wanted to kind of go over ethics a little bit and just, first of all, always be on the lookout. There are people, and I'm not saying anybody here is, but there are people out there that just want to manipulate you, that want to lie to you, that want to do anything they can to make more money. And if more money means not being honest with you, then that's what they'll do. There are people here that just aren't used to advertising stuff and aren't used to selling stuff and make mistakes. Either way, you're not getting the right information, right? So I'm not saying like hate on any game that does this or does that or anything like that, but you gotta be aware. And it sucks because somebody could watch a review and not know, hey, he's a frequent, channel partner and friends with the designer, and you just don't know because they don't tell you, right? Or they didn't tell you here. Like, they didn't say, oh, by the way, this is our designer and his two friends. They just said, hey, this is Quackalope and Morgan Co. and Man vs. Meeple, Jeremy Howard, and they have valid things to say, but you should know who's saying it, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about this. I talked about this a little bit. This is the SPJ Code of Ethics, or the Society of Professional Journalists. Now, I am not a journalist. I'm not. I'm just a dude with a camera that uploads crap to YouTube. Like, I have no training. I have no desire to train into this. However, I do need to at least be aware of some stuff, right? And it's funny, this is coming from journalists, and we all know how journalists act too, so it's like, whatever. But a lot of this point, it's kind of like how you could read something like the golden rule from the Bible, right? And not believe in Jesus or God or anything like that, but you can be like, treat others how you'd like to be treated. I can get behind that. Like, that's a legitimate, like, I can see that. Whether you agree with everything or not, you at least can appreciate the life lesson that they have. And that's, they have the silver rule and stuff like that. That's not even just in the Bible, because it's just common sense. Like, you treat people nice. Okay, duh. Same with this kind of stuff. So I found this interesting. Act independently. The highest and primary obligation of ethical journalism is to serve the public. Journalists should, number one, avoid conflicts of interest, real or perceived, and disclose unavoidable conflicts. So, first of all, they're saying conflicts can be unavoidable. When you're interacting with an industry and you're covering it, you're interacting there, right? You might have had some text stuff. They might have said a joke and you laughed at it. Are you now friends? Are you now buddy? And I love the perceived thing here. You might not think that it's a conflict of interest. And it might not be a conflict of interest. But if people could, I don't want to click on that stuff. If people could perceive it as it, if it could look that way to someone that maybe didn't know any better even, or something like that, then you should avoid it. Or if nothing else, disclose it when it's like, hey, this might look like we're buddy-buddy, but I'm just trying to deal with this review early copy, or, whatever it might be. Love that line. I could frame this on my wall. Avoid conflicts of interest, real or perceived, and disclose unavoidable conflicts. Don't deny them. Don't assume that everybody knows. Just disclose it. Refuse gifts, favors, fees, free travel, and special treatment, avoid political and other outstanding outside activities that may compromise integrity or impartiality or may damage credibility. In video game world, they have review parties where they fly you down to Vegas. They treat you to 2 days there, and then they have the designer come right by you and sit next to you, and you guys got your alcoholic drinks, and you're having a good time, and he walks you through a level, and then you were supposed to review it based off that level. That's not how that's not how that works, right? So that's what it's talking about there. Beware of sources offering information for favors or money. Do not pay for access to news. Identify content provided by outside sources, whether paid or not. Deny favored treatment to advertisers, donors, or other special interests, and resist internal and external pressures to influence coverage. This is, again, it's just like this avoid unavoidable conflicts. There are going to be internal, external pressure, and your job is just to resist that. Not necessarily to say it doesn't happen, or to say like, I'm impervious to it. You're just supposed to kind of go through the motions of doing what you can and be as honest as you can and as independent as you can. That's what's talking about there. And distinguish news from advertising and shun hybrids that blur the line between the two, prominently labeled sponsored content. So, for instance, if you're watching somebody and they normally do like review stuff, but then they're also trying to like sell you stuff on the side, like, and it's kind of confusing on which one's which, right? Especially if what they're trying to sell you is something they would normally review, or they're reviewing something that they're trying to sell, or like once you get into that kind of gray area, it becomes like a toilet bowl just going down the drain at that point, right? Because you're in a slippery slope that's going straight down to the pooper, wherever the pooper is. Anyway, and then be accountable and transparent, talks about all that other kind of stuff, as well as unethical conduct in journalism, including within their own organizations, abide to the same high standards and expect that of others, respond quickly to questions about accuracy. In other words, for instance, you guys all the time will in the comments below be like, well, what do you think about this? Or how do you're sponsored by Board Game or Game Work Create. Like, how do you feel about that when it comes to the... And I answer them. You guys know that. As much as I can't quite answer everything. I believe I've answered all the questions around that, though. I really do. Because it's important. And it's not just important because I read it on some website. It's on the website because it's important, right? Like, the reason that the biggest society of journalists have decided these are our rules is because these are legitimate concerns. So, I'm not yelling at anybody. I'm just saying, as a consumer, when you're going through the motion of looking at Kickstarters and looking at reviews and looking at quotes and looking at pages and looking at all this stuff, you will find a gamut of stuff And not all of it is straight. Not all of it is without spin. Not all of it is honest. A lot of it is just manipulation. A lot of it is misquotes and setting things up to look a certain way, or purposely saying something and, but we disclaim it over here, or whatever it might be, right? It might be that light gray on white. It might be a mistake where, we probably shouldn't put the designer's review up as a review without disclosing it's a designer. Like stuff happens, right? And so you just have to be aware of that. And I think you have to be aware of the ethics around coverage, especially within industry, because there are unavoidable conflicts. It's just how it is. If you want to actually provide news, right? I resisted Kickstarter previews for a long time. I said no. I said no for over a year because I was like, well, hey, that's a conflict of interest, right? But that makes it to where I cannot tell you my opinion on a board game I've played while they ask for money on Kickstarter. It just means I can't. If I'm going to do that at all, the only way I can is to work with them to get an early preview copy. Does that mean some do, some don't? It just depends. Ideally, you're in a group that's big enough to where it's worth it to companies to send it on the risk, right? It's kind of the idea there. That's the hope. That's the hope. But anyway, yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you because I saw two different instances where I'm like, we should probably have a conversation about this, or we should kind of talk about how things are presented to us, right? So when they're asking for our money, what are they putting on that page? And is it something I can trust? And the answer is no, not always. And you kind of have to make a judgment call for it. Now, thankfully, they're normally pretty responsive to it. Sometimes they say, no, not interested. Sometimes they say, okay, yeah, sorry, I can see how that'd be bad. And you're just going to have to roll with the punches. You can't, push too hard. And, it doesn't matter. That they're going to do what they're going to do. And you just kind of have to be willing to call it out and just kind of move forward. And so, anyway, I didn't want to end it on a bad note, but I wanted to make sure that was said. However, I know that a lot of people are just here because they just want to see the new games, in which case all that's earlier anyway, and they've checked out long ago. So thank you so much for being here, though. Seriously, even if you skipped over to this part, I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Let me know if there's any other games coming out that I should cover. I didn't cover stuff that I've covered before, that nothing new, like Skyrim and stuff like that. But if you haven't seen something on the channel, or you want to remind me of something coming up, do let me know. I do read those comments, and I greatly appreciate you guys being my eyes and ears as you kind of scope out there, because you guys have some great taste and you guys find some gems. So really interested to hear about anything else coming up. I know I'm looking to spend some money somewhere, so let's find some cool games. And I'll talk to you guys again really soon. Take care. Bye.